Um, Magandang araw ulit sa inyo mga kapatid. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time you are watching our second lecture video for our course, Building and Enhancing New Literacies in the Curriculum or across the curriculum. In our previous lecture video, we learned that the term literacy has undergone a lot of changes in terms of its meaning and implications. In our last video, we learned that the old, the traditional, the conventional meaning of the word, the term literacy has shifted, has changed, has evolved into a more complex meaning and interpretation. We learned in the previous video that before, the term literacy simply referred to one's ability to read and write. And so therefore, before, nung una, if a person knows how to read and write, no matter how simple or basic his reading ability and writing ability may be, he was still called a literate person. Kahit ang alam niyang isulat lang, or kahit ang alam lang niyang basahin ay yung mga simple words, one syllable words, yung mga simpleng salita, kung minsan nga hindi pa maintindihan lahat, ang tawag na sa kanya ay literate. He is called, he is described as a literate person. At present, that definition of literacy no longer applies. As emphasized in our previous discussion, because of the dramatic breakthroughs, because of the dramatic changes, because of the dramatic development in the field of science and technology, particularly in communications technology, our society has become much more sophisticated. Our society has become more complex. Naging komplikado ang lipunan, naging komplikado ang buhay. So, the skills, the knowledge that we need at present is different from the simple knowledge and the simple skills that people needed long time ago. So, ang ibig sabihin, yung definition ng literacy na basta marunong ka lang bumasa, marunong ka lang sumulat, no matter how simple the words are or the sentences are, basta marunong sumulat at bumasa, literate ka na. Sa panahong ito, hindi na po sapat yung definition na yon. Kahit marunong kang bumasa at sumulat, you can still be called illiterate. Ayan po ang definition ng literacy, nagbago na siya. From the emphasis on reading and writing, the emphasis has shifted to, the emphasis has changed to computing, understanding, doing more complex tasks than simple reading and simple writing. And as already mentioned, life nowadays has become complex, sophisticated, medyo komplikado ang buhay. We will need different kinds of literacies. No? Para hindi po tayo magkalituhan, as already mentioned before, literacy simply means a set of knowledge, no? A set of skills. So kapag sinabi halimbawa na new literacies, this refers to new set of knowledge, new set of skills, mga bagong kaalaman at mga bagong kakayahan. Sabi nga natin sa previous video, the definition of literacy shifted, lumipat mga kapatid, nagsaydo, nag-iba. The definition of literacy shifted from the emphasis on reading to knowing. So sa panahon ito, pag sinabing literacy, it does not simply refer to one's ability to read and write. Sa panahon ito, in these modern times, now at present, the word literacy means a set of knowledge, a set of skills needed to carry out, to perform a specific task. Halimbawa, financial literacy. Hindi lang puros basa. You should be able to handle your finances. Dapat marunong humawak ng pera, marunong mag-budget, you know about investments, you know how to spend wisely, things like those. These are sets of knowledge and skills pertaining to finances. Yan ang tinatawag na financial literacy. Knowledge and skills pertaining to the use of money. So yung meaning ng literacy, hindi lang puros basa, hindi lang puros sulat ng mga simpleng words and sentences. Although in managing your finances, you will still need to read and write. Yung pagbasa at pagsulat ay nandoon pa rin. But it is no longer enough. You need more skills, more knowledge to manage your finances very well. Yun ang tinatawag nating literacy. Financial literacy. Iba naman doon sa digital or cyber literacy. That's another set of knowledge and skills needed to use the internet in a productive way, or things like those. Basta ang ibig ko lang sabihin dito, in this course, no, in this subject, when we use the word literacy, it simply means a set of knowledge or set of skills. No? Literacy, mga kaalaman, mga kakayahan na kailangan ng isang tao para gawin ang isang medyo komplikadong bagay. Yan, para hindi po tayo nagkakalituhan as to the meaning of literacy. Kasi nung una, basta marunong kang bumasa at sumulat, literate ka na eh. Ngayon ay hindi na po pwede yung definition na yun. At present, a person can read and write, but he may not be able to manage his finances. So marunong siyang bumasa at sumulat, but he does not have what we call financial literacy. So this person is called financially illiterate. Meron tayong tinatawag na computer literacy. See, set of knowledge, set of skills that a person can use in utilizing computer and computer technology properly and productively. So kahit ang isang taong marunong sumulat at bumasa, kapag hindi siya marunong sa computer, he does not know how to use the internet, zero knowledge siya pagdating doon, ay computer illiterate ang tawag sa kanya. So you see, illiterate ang tawag sa kanya. Kahit marunong siyang bumasa, kahit marunong siyang sumulat. Bakit? Because he does not have the knowledge and skills needed in using the computer. So pagdating sa computer, siya ay illiterate. Marunong lang siyang bumasa at sumulat, but when it comes to computer, he is illiterate. So yung skills na yon, yung knowledge na yon in using the computer, that is another kind of literacy. Kaya iba-iba ang mga literacies. There are several kinds of new literacies. Ang ibig lang sabihin, iba-iba ang uri ng mga bagong kaalaman at mga bagong kakayahan. Bakit? Kasi po, iba-iba rin yung mga bagay-bagay na kailangan nating gawin sa mundo. Kailangan nating makibagay sa ibang tao coming from different cultural backgrounds. So you see, we need what we call cultural literacy. Again, this refers to one's knowledge and skills in navigating through the different cultural practices of different people coming from different cultural backgrounds. Ibang relihiyon ng mga kaklase mo. Paano kang makikibagay sa kanila? If you do not have the what we call cultural literacy, you might be in conflict with them. So you see? So, tandaan po natin yan, no? Pag sinabing new literacy, bagong kaalaman, mga bagong kakayahan na kailangan natin sa makabago at komplikadong mundo na ating ginagalawan sa kasalukuyan. Yan po yung focus ng ating discussion in the previous video. This time, we're going to talk about 21st century education. Ano ba itong sinasabing 21st century education? What kind of classroom are we going to have in this century? How are learners learning in the 21st century? Kasi nasa 21st century na tayo ngayon eh. How are teachers teaching in the 21st century? And when you become teachers, how will you teach? Because you are already in the 21st century. What kind of approaches are you going to use? Yan po ang pag-uusapan natin. 21st century education. 21st century education contexts. Let us talk about the context. Ang ibig sabihin ng context plus yung kanyang surrounding situation. Yung kanyang pinaka-overall background. The surrounding circumstances. No? 21st century education contexts. First, schools in the 21st century focus on a project-based curriculum. Project-based. So, learners will be required, they will be made to engage in certain hands-on activities that will require them to do projects, do experiments, no? Parang kung ito, experiential learning. Learning by doing. So, hindi na tayo puros dito, puro lecture inside the classroom. Hindi na puro memorize this, memorize that. Hindi na tayo dito puro recite this, recite that. So there will be more of actual performance of tasks on the part of the learners. And the kind of problems that they will address will be real-world problems. In other words, problems that they actually encounter in their daily life. They may also include the different concerns of humanity, social problems. No? Their projects can focus on those things. So, if we're going to imagine a 21st century classroom, we will see in our mind a classroom that is filled with students who are engaged in actual activities. Gone are the days of the traditional classroom where the teacher stands in front, delivers the lecture, while the learners sit quietly and passively in their respective seats, trying to absorb everything that the teacher is saying. Tapos na po yung panahon na yon. Ngayon, there is more participation on the part of the learners. Learners participate more actively in their own learning. Yan po ang isa sa mga magiging characteristics ng 21st century education. This has become an innovation in education. So from being textbook-driven, dati kasi yung ating education, and sad to say, even until now, this kind of teaching still exists, no? Textbook-driven. Everything that the teacher imparts to the learner comes from the textbook. Masyadong bookish ang mga teachers. Sometimes, ako din kumukuha sa mga books na, but I try to augment, no? I try to add sources or materials from what I get from the textbook. Kasi talagang, class, very, very, very bare and very boring if you are going to depend on the textbook all the time. Parang magiging what do you call this? Plain, no? The classroom also used to be, no? Dati kasi siya ay textbook driven at saka teacher centered. Alala niyo yung pag-aaral natin noon, education used to be teacher centered. Unlike now, no? We have already shifted or transferred to learner centered teaching. Before, the teacher was the focus, the most important element in the educative process. The teacher is seen as the source of all knowledge and information. The teacher is the final and the sole authority when it comes to the subject he or she is teaching. Ngayon, excuse me. Ngayon, hindi na tayo teacher-centered, kundi learner-centered. We take into consideration the needs, the interests, the abilities, the preferences, the personal likes and dislikes, the experiences, the motivations of the learner. These things become the primary consideration in the preparation of lessons, activities, learning experiences for them. Tinitingnan muna kung ano yung kanilang mga needs, ano yung kanilang mga interests, ano yung kanilang mga abilities. Base doon magpaplano yung teacher kung paano magtuturo. Yun ang tinatawag nating learner-centered. Yan ang education ngayon. Dati, teacher-centered. Halimbawa, ako teacher, I have this topic. I will prepare my lesson plan. I will prepare materials. Wala akong pakialam sa aking mga estudyante. I don't care what their needs are, what their abilities are, what their interests are. Basta ako mayroong topic, ituturo ko ito sa kanila. At ako lang ang marunong nito. I am the authority here. I am the sole source of knowledge and information inside my class. Ganon yung teacher-centered teaching. Ngayon ay learner-centered teaching na. Okay. So, ganon ang mangyayari, ganon na ang nangyayari at present, no? The classroom has shifted from being teacher-centered to learner-centered. Yan ang mga bagay na nangyayari sa 21st century classroom, 21st century education. Okay, so mayroon tayong mga facilities, physical buildings. Katulad nito, may mga buildings tayo, may mga classrooms. This will slowly disappear in the picture. Hindi naman ang ibig sabihin ay mag-evaporate sila literally. Ang ibig lang sabihin, learning will no longer be limited to or confined to the four walls of the classroom. Even teaching will no longer be confined to the four walls of the classroom. Dati kasi, we all need to go to a physical classroom. Yung teacher at mga estudyante, kailangan nilang pumunta talaga sa isang classroom, sa isang physical classroom. Uupo sila doon at magkaklase. Ngayon, this is no longer a requirement. 20th century education can occur, it can take place, it can happen even without a physical classroom. The best example is what we are doing right now. Wala tayo sa isang physical classroom. Ako lang ang nasa classroom, nandito sa ating classroom. Pero kayo, nasan kayo? Nandyan kayo sa mga bahay niyo. Nandyan kayo sa malayo. See? But we can still hold our class. Nakakapagturo pa rin ako sa inyo. Nakakapag-interact pa rin ako sa inyo. We can still interact with one another. Even if we are not in a physical classroom. Nowadays, it is possible to earn a degree even without physically going to an actual school. Everything is done online. Yung mga open universities, just imagine that, no? You can earn a degree. You can finish college even if you do not physically go to an actual school, to an actual university. It can be done online. So yung concept ng klase sa loob ng classroom, it is gradually, it is slowly disappearing. Baka later, wala nang papasok ng mga bata sa mga schools. Puros online na lang. Who knows, no? Katulad nga ngayon, who thought that we would be conducting classes this way, no? Sino ba sa atin ang nag-expect na magkaklase tayo ng ganito? Wala naman. Okay. So in terms of role, no, yung papel na kanilang ginagampanan, teachers will shift, magbabago, magpapalit ng role, magpapalit ng papel na ginagampanan. From being dispensers of information to becoming facilitators of learning. Ayun pa po ang isang pagbabagong nangyayari sa ating education. From being dispensers of knowledge, taga-bigay, taga-impart ng information and knowledge, teachers will now serve as the facilitators of learning. Ano po bang ibig sabihin ito? Dati kasi yung mga teachers, they are the source of knowledge and information inside the classroom. Wala nang iba, may dalang libro, tapos yung kanyang nasa isip. That is all. And then sinasabi niya ito sa mga bata, nililecture. Dispenser nga, parang water dispenser. Kuha ka ng tubig, may lalabas na tubig. Ganon din sa teacher, may lumalabas na knowledge from the teacher to the learner. See? This is no longer commonly done at present. This is no longer a wide practice at present because we have shifted from being dispensers of knowledge to facilitators of learning. Ano naman yung facilitator of learning? A facilitator of learning is somebody who does not just spew knowledge and information. A facilitator of learning is not somebody who just recites information and then expect this information to be absorbed by the learners. A facilitator of learning is somebody who guides, somebody who provides experiences for the learners in order for them to learn and sometimes even discover knowledge for themselves. Yung mga learners mismo ang nakaka-discover ng knowledge through the guidance of the teacher. That's called facilitating learning. We provide opportunity, we provide experience, we provide activity, and then we stay on the side. We leave the learners to find the knowledge and information on their own. Nandun lang tayo to direct, to guide, to supervise, to provide assistance when needed. Hindi katulad nung una na talagang halos spoon feeding ang ginagawa ng mga teachers, no? Halos hungit yung ikatong information. Wala nang ginagawa ang mga learners kundi absorb na lang ng absorb. Yan. That's one of the changes. From being dispensers of information to facilitators of learning. Kaya kayo, pag naging teachers na kayo, you will become facilitators of learning. Hindi kayo basta magre-recite ng lesson, ng mga information, and then expect your pupils to absorb them, to learn them. No. Your job as teachers later will be to plan, to initiate, to implement activities inside the classroom so that the learners will have the opportunity to find the needed knowledge or information. Sila mismo ang maghahanap ng information or knowledge na kailangan nilang matutuhan. How will they do that? they will engage themselves in doing the activity you have prepared for them. Pagawin mo sila ng mga experiments, mga hands-on activities, mga group activities, puntahin mo sa library, mag-research, whatever. As long as there is an activity, there is something that they will do, and in doing that activity, they will learn. You do not simply feed to them the information. Wala na po halos gumagamit ngayon ng spoon feeding, no? Hindi na po accepted na teaching practice yan, no? Okay, so iiwasan natin yan, no, pag tayo naging teachers na. Okay, so education in the 21st century will require knowledge generation, knowledge production, not just information delivery, and schools will need to create a culture of inquiry. Ano po itong tinatawag nating knowledge generation? To generate is to produce, no? So in terms of learning, the learners will need to look for the knowledge themselves. Sila mismo ang maghanap ng information. Halimbawa, magbigay tayo ng example class ha. Sa social studies, history. Kunyari ang lesson ay history ng Calatrava para madali nating maunawaan. No? Yung history ng Calatrava, hindi lang basta sa kanila ikukwento ng teacher. Hindi lang basta sa kanila inanarrate. Ano ang gagawin ng teacher para maintindihan ng mga bata yung history ng Calatrava na lesson nila? Magbibigay siya ng mga activity. Halimbawa, the teacher might require the students to conduct interviews with the old people in the community. People who have served as municipal employees or officials before. Magtatanong sila doon, Angkol, paano ba nag-umpisa ang Calatrava as a municipality? Lola, ano po ba ang Calatrava dati bago naging munisipyo? Balita ko po ay barangay lang tayo. So ganon, they will search for documents in the municipal building that will answer their question. What is the history of Calatrava? How did it start? So, they will generate knowledge. Sila mismo ang magpuproduce ng knowledge. Sila mismo ang maghahanap ng knowledge. Ano yung hinahanap nilang knowledge? The history of Calatrava. So, after they have conducted the activity, babalik sila sa classroom and they will present to the teacher what they have discovered or found. So, natuto sila ng history ng Calatrava with very minimal intervention from the teacher. Sila ang nag-produce ng knowledge. Yung mga bata, yung mga learners, ang nag-generate ng knowledge. It was not given to them directly by the teacher. It was not spoon-fed to them by the teacher. Waya sa inrag basta hungitan i-teacher ka tong information. Yung mga bata ang naghanap, sila ang nag-generate, sila ang nag-produce. That is what we call knowledge generation, knowledge production. Ganyan po ang 21st century classroom. Learners produce, learners generate their own knowledge. The information is not just delivered to them directly by the teacher. The teacher does not spoon-feed to them the information. Sila ang maghanap, yung mga bata, again, with the guidance and supervision of the teacher. So in order to fulfill this, schools need to create a culture of inquiry. Dapat yung mga bata ay maging palaisip, maging pala-inquire, maging pala-tanong, so that what do you call this? The learning will be spurred. They will be motivated to answer their own questions. Kasi curious sila sa mga bagay-bagay. They would want to find answers to their own questions. Ganyan po ang 21st century education. Another one, learners will become adaptive to changes. To adapt is to adjust, no? So yung mga bata ngayon, they can easily adjust or adapt to changes. In the past, learners spent a required amount of time in respective courses. Lahat kasi ng mga subject, mayroong time allotment. 1 hour per day, 5 meetings per week. Or mayroong mga 3 hours per day, 3 meetings per week. Depende sa klase ng subject, no? This kind of regimented classes, this type of regimented teaching and learning is now gradually changing. The time allotment for each subject now depends on the activity. Hindi naka-fix na 45 minutes, dismiss na. 60 minutes, o naka-60 minutes na, dismiss na. Hindi po ganon. Depende sa activity. If an activity needs 1 whole day, then the students will spend the whole day for that one particular subject only. Halimbawa sa science, gumagawa ng experiment. Well, experiments can hardly be finished within 30 minutes. So, kailangan nilang mahabang oras. So, nandun sila sa subject nilang science hanggang hindi natatapos yung experiment. Paano, sir, katang masunod ng subject? Iba na nga ang pag-schedule. Iba na ang pag-conduct ng klase. Hindi yung regimented na. Sa ganun, you start at this particular time and end at this particular time. You give this particular subject as a certain number of minutes. Hindi na yung ganun ang ginagawa ngayon. Research-based na yung iba nga eh. As long as you have not yet finished the research, then you stay on that subject. So, ganun po yan. Okay. What are the implications to teachers? Dahil nga mayroong mga pagbabago, ano ang implikasyon yan? Ano ang ibig sabihin yan in terms of our work as teachers? First, teachers, kulang na naman ang R. Teachers must discover student interest by helping them see what and how they are learning to prepare them for life in the real world. As already mentioned, we have shifted from teacher-centered to learner-centered. Learner-centered teaching requires us teachers to know the interests of our learners. So, kapag nalaman natin kung ano yung mga bagay na sila ay interesado, we can start from that. We can start with that. Pwede natin gamitin yon in preparing our lesson, in planning for the different activities, so that they will learn how to face real-life problems in the real world. So, hindi na pwede ngayon yung puro ko na lang. Puro talkies. No? Yung talk and talk, hindi na pwede yung ganon. Dapat na yung mga activities na. Because it is in these activities that the learners will learn how to solve real-life problems, how to solve difficulties that they encounter outside the classroom. Teachers must instill curiosity among the learners. Why? Curiosity is very important for lifelong learners. Lifelong learning, I mean. If a person is curious, he will want to learn. He would want to find answers to his questions. Curious siya. Hindi gusto niyang malaman. No? So we should instill that attitude of curiosity among our learners. Pukawin natin yung kanilang pagiging palatanong, palaisip, no? Yung pagiging inquisitive. And we should also be flexible in how we teach. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng flexible? Ang isang taong flexible, madaling baguhin niya yung kanyang sarili so that he can adjust to new situations. Katulad ngayon, kailangan nating mag-adjust. We cannot go to school, you cannot come here in our, excuse me, you cannot come here in our classroom so that we can conduct our class. We have to adjust. We have to use online modalities, no? So dapat ang teacher madali mag-shift, madali magbago so that he can adjust to the new situations. Kasi kapag hindi tayo marunong mag-adjust, hindi tayo marunong mag-adapt, we can be easily overwhelmed with the different changes that are taking place around us. Madali tayong panghihinaan ng loob, no? In the face of problems. So dapat flexible. We must excite our learners. Gawin natin silang maging excited to become more resourceful. Ano ibig sabihin class ng resourceful? Teka, bakit ko kayo tinatanong? Hindi naman pala kayo pwedeng sumagot sa akin. Resourceful is somebody who can find ways to solve a problem. Ang isang taong resourceful ay isang taong maparaan. Yeah. He can find solutions to a problem. So that's another thing we have to excite among our students, among our learners, to become more resourceful so that even if they are already outside, they will still continue to learn even on their own. Even if the teacher is no longer there to guide them and to supervise them, they can still learn on their own. As a result, students manifest significant improvement in basic skills of reading. Okay. So, kapag sila ay natuto na marunong na silang matuto na sila lang, no? Kahit wala yung teacher diyan sa tabi nila, nagagawa nilang matuto that their basic skills, their overall abilities, their overall capabilities will improve. Kasama na siyempre yung skills of reading, writing, speaking, listening, researching, doing scientific explorations, mathematics, multimedia skills, and others. Actually, kahit ano pwedeng matutunan ng isang bata who is an independent learner. Independent learner siya. Ang ibig sabihin, he can learn on his own. Kasi nasa kanya yung skills na kailangan niya. Saan ang galing yung skills? Nakuha niya sa classroom. Nakuha niya sa teacher. Yung iba naman siya ang naghanap. Siya ang nag-develop sa kanyang sarili. Kasi we can also teach ourselves no? Okay. So yun yung the 21st century classroom. Ganon ang pagtuturo, ganon ang learning sa 21st century. Let us talk about the 21st century curriculum. Ano naman klaseng curriculum mayroon tayo sa 21st century? First, interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary. Ang ibig sabihin, we make use of different disciplines. Ang ibig sabihin, class ng discipline, an area of study. Kung bagay, sa basic education bagay, by subject. Yan ang tinatawag nating subject. Pag higher level, discipline. Ayan. Education is a discipline. No? Mathematics, we can call it a discipline. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng discipline. So pag sinabing interdisciplinary, lessons are taught using different areas of knowledge. No? Iba-ibang areas of knowledge ang ginagamit. Halimbawa nga sa experiment, gamit ka dyan ng science, gamit ka ng mathematics, gamit ka dyan ng English. Especially in writing your report. O, the interdisciplinary. Project-based and research-driven. Diba sabi natin kanina, the 21st century education will be project-based. Merong gagawing project, merong gagawing activity, merong expected output or product. Hindi na puros lecturean lang sa loob ng classroom. Kaya nga kayo, pag nagturo na kayo, this is what you will do. You will engage your pupils in certain activities para meron silang gagawin. Diba sa psychology? The more a child actively participates in an activity, the more he learns. The more he manipulates, the more he learns. The 21st century curriculum is connected to local, national, and global communities. Ngayon, ang pinag-aaralan, hindi lang yung nakikita natin sa palibot natin. No? We are concerned not only with the things that we see in our immediate surroundings. We are also concerned with things that are beyond our immediate surroundings, such as national issues, and even global issues, no? Kahit yung mga pandaigdigang mga issues, mga social problems, environmental problems, economic problems, in the national and global or international level, we study them inside the classroom. That's the 21st century curriculum. Halimbawa, as Filipinos, we study other cultures, other countries, their history, their language, their culture, their people. So you see, it is needed at present. No? We can no longer exist as a separate nation. As already mentioned before, the world has become a global village. Yung buong mundo ngayon ay isa na lang na malaking community of nations, malaking community of countries. So we need to understand the cultures of other nations, other peoples, other races. Kasama yan sa curriculum. Higher order thinking skills, ganun din. We are advised to aim for instructional objectives that will require the learners to engage in higher order thinking skills. Mag-analyze sila, they will apply principles, they follow procedures, they will evaluate, they will create. Hindi puros recitation and memorization. We will also make use of multiple intelligences. No? We have already taken this up. We already know what these are. Iba-iba ang talino ng mga bata. Iba-iba ang talino ng mga tao. Mayroong verbal intelligence, may mathematical, logical intelligence, may musical rhythmic, mayroong bodily kinesthetic, and so on and so forth. Intrapersonal, interpersonal, yung existential, meron pang naturalist intelligence. Makikita ninyo yan sa inyong mga bata. And you will provide experiences for them that is appropriate, that is consistent, that is in line with their intelligence. Technology and multimedia will also be integrated into teaching and learning. This is already happening now. No? You look at us, no? Without this multimedia, without this technology, without the internet, we cannot hold our class. Di tayo pwede mag-face-to-face eh. So, mabuti kayo, sanay na kayo sa mga computers, sanay na kayo sa mga cellphones, sanay kayo sa gadgets, sanay kayo sa internet. You are already familiar with the different software applications. You are familiar with the different websites. You can use all of these resources in your teaching. Maswerte kayo kasi kayo pinanganak kasabay ng internet at computer. No, mga millennials. Yan ang tawag sa inyo, mga millennials. Maswerte kayo, you are familiar with this technology. Millennials. Kami ay, ang tawag naman sa amin ay maintennials. Maintennials. Kasi marami na kaming maintenance. May maintenance sa high blood, may maintenance sa rheuma, may maintenance sa sugar. Yeah. Maintennials. Kayo millennials, kami maintennials. Pero nakakaagapay pa rin. Kapag internet ng konti, may Facebook, kapag YouTube, and we can use these things in teaching you. So, kahit pa paano, nakakaagapay pa rin, ano? Maintenance. Multiple literacies and authentic assessments. So, ito na naman yung multiple literacies, no? At present, we need different kinds, different sets of knowledge and skills. Multiple di marami. Multiple literacies. Remember, literacies means set of knowledge and skills. Pag sinabing literacy, yan ay kaalaman, yan ay mga kakayahan, set of knowledge and skills needed to perform or carry out a certain task. So pag sinabing multiple literacies, the curriculum will contain lessons pertaining to different or varied sets of knowledge and skills. Iba-iba ang pinag-aaralan sa school. Kaya nga may mga subjects pertaining to English, Filipino, Science, Mathematics, may Physical Education, may TLE, may Computer Subjects. Kailangan kasi lahat ito ng mga bata. Multiple literacies and authentic assessments. Hindi na lang puros get 1/4 piece of paper. Number it from 1 to 5. Number 1, what is the capital of Japan? Hindi na po ganun ang assessment ngayon. Performance-based na. Mayroong gagawin yung mga bata, and based on their performance, they will be assessed or evaluated. Halimbawa, experiment. Pwede ba naman get 1/4 ang test ng experiment? Siyempre, they will need to actually perform the experiment. Yeah. Students are self-directed and work independently as well as interdependently. Self-directed. Sila na mismo ang nagmamanage o nagdadirect sa kanilang sarili with very minimal supervision from the teacher. They work independently, meaning sila lang ang gumagawa, pwede ring group activity or interdependent learning. Instruction is more thematic. Ang ibig sabihin, class, it will revolve around a theme. It will revolve around a theme. Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, sa school, yung buong subjects, yung lahat ng subjects for the first quarter will focus on the environment. So for the first quarter, yun ang theme, the environment. So lesson sa English about environment. Kung magbibigay ka ng example ng sentences, it's about the environment. Sa science, ganun din ang lesson, it's about the environment. Yung mga ecology, biodiversity, mga global warming, yan, science. Sa mathematics, ganun din. Kahit mathematics siya, kailangan ma-connect pa rin sa environment. Because that is the theme, no? That is the theme. Ay, mayroong sumisigaw doon, but malayo. I don't know kung napipikat ng microphone. Okay. So, thematic siya, no? Project-based. Mayroong gagawing project. Sa paggawa ng project, doon sila matututo. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng project-based. And integrated. Pinagsasama-sama ang mga lessons. Instead of textbook-driven and fragmented. Tapos na yung panahon ng mga textbook-driven teaching. At saka yung fragmented. English, puro English. Science, puro science lang. Walang pakialam sa ibang subjects. Social studies lang. Literature lang. Yeah. So, again, instruction is more thematic, project-based, and integrated. O, see? Tapos na yung mga memorization na yan. Hindi na yan ginagawa ngayon masyado. Although sometimes we still need to memorize things, but we do not stop there. Hindi lang tayo puros memorization all the time. What's important is comprehension and even more important, how to apply or use the things that they learn in solving actual problems, real life problems. Okay. Personal experiences, interests, talents, and habits of the learners, these are all taken into consideration by the teacher. Tinitingnan niya, ano ba ang mga experiences ng aking mga pupils? What are their interests? Saan level sila in terms of their ability? What kind of learners do I have? Anong klaseng backgrounds ang pinagmulan nila? What kind of culture do they have? Yan. Doon ka magpaplano within the context of those things, doon ka magpaplano. Yan. Anong paplanohin mo? Yung pagtuturo. Anong lesson, anong activity, how you will teach, evaluation mo, ibabase mo lahat doon. Yan. Okay. So, tapos na natin yun, the 21st century classroom, the 21st century curriculum. Now, let us talk about the 21st century learning environment. Yung kapaligiran, no? Learning environment. First, so sabi nga natin kanina, it is no longer confined to a literal classroom building. Meron nga mga nag-aaral, hindi pumapasok sa school eh. Nag-aaral yan. They do not have a specific classroom. Paano nilang nagagawa yun? Online. So there is no longer a physical classroom, there is no longer an actual classroom, but students still learn collaboratively. They can still interact with one another through technology. They can still collaborate with their peers. They can exchange resources. They can exchange ideas. They can exchange insights. No? They can coach each other, they can mentor each other, meaning they can teach each other and share talents and skills with each other. So in other words, they can still interact actively with one another even if they are no longer in an actual physical classroom. Yun ang magiging learning environment ng mga bata. Wala nang classroom, wala nang mga buildings, but they can still collaborate and interact with one another actively. No. Just like what you are doing right now. Papalitan kayo ng mga files, papalitan kayo ng mga video files, you share resources, you share pictures, you share answers for online tests. Pare ako yung answer sa number 5. Yan ay pare ako message sa mo. Screenshot pare, screenshot. O, di ba? Sharing of resources. Jokes lang yan, jokes lang. Okay. Cooperative learning is also apparent. So, yung sinasabi natin kanina, learners can still cooperate and collaborate with one another even if they are separate from one another. Kasi hiwa-hiwalayan sila klase, hindi katulad sa isang classroom na halimbawa, nung mag-face-to-face tayo, nandito tayong lahat. So it's easy for you to interact with one another, collaborate with one another. Dali lang, no? I would simply divide you into groups and then you can already start working. Ngayon, wala na nga itong mga ito eh. The concept of a literal classroom is gradually disappearing. Does that mean that learners can no longer collaborate? Of course not. They can still collaborate, they can still cooperate with one another through technology. So, nandiyan pa rin yung collaboration and cooperation. Okay, let's talk about this. Technology in the 21st century pedagogy. Pedagogy is the art of teaching. No? Pedagogy means teaching. 21st century learning acknowledges full access to technology. Mapapansin nyo talaga, 21st century pedagogy is dependent on technology. Tanggalin mo yung technology, parang mapaparalyze yung educational system. Tingnan mo yung sitwasyon natin ngayon. Tanggalin mo yung technology, nga tayong lahat. Para akong momo dito sa classroom ko na tutungang at nakaharap sa dingding. Ganon din kayo. Wala rin kayong gagawin. So, we are dependent on technology. However, we must remember that technology are just tools. No? Hindi talaga ito yung pinaka-objective of education. Sila ay instruments. Sila ay mga tools. Ginagamit natin sila para tayo ay matuto. What I'm trying to say is, we are studying, no? We are learning things through technology. Hindi lang mismo yung technology ang pinag-aaralan natin. Nag-aaral tayo ng technology dahil gusto nating magamit ito sa pag-aaral pa ng ibang bagay. Yun ang ibig sabihin doon. They are just tools. They are just instruments that we can use to learn more, to acquire more knowledge, to acquire more skills. Ginagamit lang natin yung technology to do that. Yun ang ibig sabihin doon, class. So let's try to understand the kind of learners that we will have in the 21st century. First, they are immersed. They are immersed into technology which come in the form of different kinds of gadgets. Cellular phones, mga cellphones, no? Kayo, may mga cellphones kayo. Mga kabataan ngayon, parang hindi mabubuhay ng walang cellphone, no? Cellular phones, handheld gaming devices, yung mga video games, nasa handheld devices na. Nung una, nasa TV yan eh. PDAs, personal digital assistant, and laptops and computers, TV and game consoles at home. So what's the point? Your generation is immersed. Nakalublob kayo sa teknolohiya. Para bang when you were born into this world, technology was already prevalent. Nakakalat na siya sa mundo. Ginagamit na ng mga tao. So you see, you were born into this kind of environment. So you are immersed in a media culture. Young people, base daw sa isang survey, no? Young people aged 8 to 18, mula 8 anyos hanggang 18. Ayon sa pag-aaral, ayon sa survey na ito, they spend on electronic media an average of 6 hours a day. Would you agree with that based on your experience? Itong mga respondents dito sa survey na ito, dito sa research na ito, it was found out that every day, they spend at least 6 hours on their gadgets. Isipin mo yan, 6 hours, 1/4 ng isang araw. Sila ay nasa kanilang gadgets, nasa kanilang mga cellphones or laptops or computers. And many of them are multitasking. Such as, ang ibig sabihin class ng multitasking, you do several things all at the same time. Mga 3 or 4 na gawain, pinagsasabay mong gawin lahat at the same time. Yan ang sinasabing multitasking. Such as, listening to music while surfing the web. Habang nagsusurf, iba-ibang websites, you're listening to music. That's very common. Or instant messaging friends while playing a video game. Habang nagbi-video game, nakikipag-chat sa barkada, sa tropa, or sa jowa. See? Multitasking. Yung iba nga nag-aaral ng lesson, may music. At the same time, nagsasurf. Paano kaya yun? Can they still absorb what they are studying doing that? And on top of that, habang ginagawa niyo yung lahat ng yun, kumakain pa siya ng dingdong. Or nilagang kamote. Multitasking. No? Magagaling kayo dyan. Your generation is good at doing that. Multitasking. Kami na medyo may edad na, nagagawa din namin yan, pero only at a certain extent, no? Hindi ka tulad nyo, no? Napapagsabay talaga yung maraming bagay. Even preschoolers to, you look at this, yung mga bata sa preschool, they navigate the electronic media resources of games in which they learn colors, numbers, letters, spelling, and so on and so forth. The whole point here is that even preschoolers can learn from certain applications or software. Meron mga websites na ganyan, no? They are designed for preschool children. There are online lessons there about colors, numbers, letters, shapes. So in this regard, these websites can help these children learn, so they are beneficial. No? Simple problem-solving activities and reading. Yan ang mga makikita sa websites na yan. At yan natututo ang mga maraming bata. However, there is an issue here. Merong concern ang mga educators. Maraming bata daw ang marunong gumamit ng internet, marunong gumamit ng mga gadgets, marunong gumamit ng mga laptops at computers, but they are usually limited to entertainment purposes. Marunong mag-internet, marunong mag-laptop, marunong ng computer, marunong ng gadgets like cellphones, pero hanggang doon lang sa level sila ng entertainment. Update ng mga status, panood ng mga videos, mag-post ng mga jokes, mag-upload ng kung ano-ano dyan. Entertainment lang, just to amuse themselves. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila lumalampas doon. Hindi nila mararating yung level na gagamitin yung gadget, gagamitin yung internet para matuto. I have seen a lot of children do that, no? Ang galing, ang bilis ng mga kamay. But when you tell them to search a certain information, when you tell them to, halimbawa, pagsulatin mo na say, simple resume, nahihirapan sila. Pero bang ayaw ka na mag-video game? So marunong sa gadgets, marunong sa internet, pero only for entertainment purposes. Iilan lang yung nagagamit yung internet at gadgets, technology general, in learning, in generating knowledge, in producing knowledge, no? Okay. Well, some of them can do research, they can analyze, synthesize, critique, pero karamihan talaga, doon lang sa level ng entertainment. Okay, let's talk about this. 21st century skills, outcome, and the demands in the job market. Ano yung mga kailangan sa job market? Ibig sabihin, pag nag-apply na kayo ng mga trabaho, yung mga graduates natin, pag nag-apply ng trabaho, ano yung mga kailangan nilang skills para matanggap, no? Ito, 21st century skills are a set of abilities that students need to develop to succeed in the information age. Sa panahon ito, what skills do you need in order to succeed? First, learning skills. Dapat mayroon kang skills sa paghahanap ng knowledge and information. Ibig sabihin, ikaw mismo, kahit sarili mo lang, kung meron kang gustong matutuhan, magagawa mo na matututo ka. Yan. Self-learning baga, mga kapatid. This will include critical thinking, creative thinking, collaborating, and communicating. Literacy skills, kailangan mo rin yan. Information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy. See? You will need certain knowledge and skills about handling information, about using the media, about using technology. These are what we call literacy skills. Diba yung literacy ulit kanina, meaning niya, set of knowledge or set of skills. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng literacy. We need literacy skills. Life skills. Ano kaya ito? Flexibility. Kailangan mabilis tayo mag-adapt, no? Flexible. Hindi yung very rigid tayo na hindi na tayo pwedeng magbago ng sarili natin. Hindi na tayo pwedeng magbago ng pananaw. Hindi na tayo pwedeng magbago ng idea. We should be flexible. If there is a need for us to change our opinion, and then we change it. Kasi dapat nga maging flexible eh. Mayroon tayo dapat initiative. Ang ibig sabihin, ang isang taong mayroong initiative, kahit walang utos, gagawin niyang isang bagay. Kasi alam niya, yun ang dapat gawin. Yeah. Social skills. How do we interact with other people? That will determine our social skills. Productivity and leadership. These are called life skills. Ito ang mga skills na kailangan ng tao ngayon para siya maging successful. Knowing a trade. Siyempre, bago tayo makapag-apply ng trabaho, kailangan alam natin yung trabaho. Tulad nyo, mag-apply kayong teacher, dapat ay alam mo yung pagtuturo. Kaya ka nga nag-aaral ng DEL. Following directions, no? Pagsunod sa mga instructions. Getting along with others. You also need that skills. You should be able to work with other people in a harmonious and productive way. Hindi yung palagi ka na lang sa sulok, mag-isa ka, nagmumukmuk, nakasimangot ka pa. Nobody will want to work with you if your attitude is like that. No? Working hard, dapat daw ay hardworking tayo, no? Masipag. And being professional, efficient, prompt, honest, and fair. Ito yung mga skills at ito yung mga pag-uugali na kailangan natin at present so that we will succeed in whatever endeavor we engage ourselves in. Dami natin kailangang skills, no? Okay. The 21st century learning implications. Ano ngayon ang ibig sabihin ng lahat ng mga bagay na ito with regards to teaching and learning? Okay. So, teachers should practice teaching cross-disciplinary skills in related courses. Ang ibig sabihin, class, if you are a teacher, you should not be limited to one area only. Hindi ang ibig sabihin ay dahil ikaw ay science teacher, wala ka ng ibang alam kundi puro science na lang. Ang ibig sabihin, you should also learn other areas of knowledge. Kasi nga interdisciplinary na eh. You will need to incorporate or integrate other disciplines in your teaching. Halimbawa ako, magtuturo ako ng English. Kunyari ako, English major. I will also try to learn other areas related to language. No? So, kailangan ma-correlate ko siya sa, halimbawa, social studies, sa science. No? Nung nagtuturo ako sa high school noon, pag nagpabigay ako ng sentence, pinapakuha ko sa science. Para they will learn English and science at the same time. Okay. They should also learn how to do research. Kaya mayroong mga research methods. Tulad ninyo, no? Magre-research kayo. They should learn how to articulate technical, scientific concepts in verbal, written, and graphic forms. So, dapat ay naka-immerse sa science. Presenting laboratory reports to a pool of specialists. Halimbawa, para ka nag-report, pinakanta ka ng experiment ng teacher. Parang i-report mo yan sa teacher or maybe even a panel. No? Tapos tatanungin ka nila, how did you conduct your experiment? What are your findings? You should be able to defend your experiment. So, yung mga skills na ganyan, kailangan yan ngayon. Technology, software, very common na ito, no? Multimedia applications. Talagang yung buhay ng tao ngayon, naka-connect na sa technology. You imagine the world without cell phones, without laptops, without computers, without the internet. What will be left is Almost nothing. Very bleak, very plain, very bare, no? Parang wala nang buhay ang buhay, ang mundo, kung tatanggalin mo yung lahat ng mga yan. Lalo na sila ay nakasanayan ng tao, nakasama at ginagamit sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. In our daily life, no, what's the average time that we open our cell phones? Ako siguro, madalas ako mag-check ng aking cellphone eh. Baka may message ang estudyante, baka may nagtatanong, baka may update doon sa aking nire-require na materials to upload, things like those. Baka may memo galing sa aming campus director, baka may memorandum galing sa main campus, things like those. So, halos all the time, naka-online na lang tayo eh. Ako, bihira ako mag-offline. Baka kasi mayroong importanteng bagay na pumasok and I will miss it. Halimbawa, message from a student, naka-offline ako, hindi ko siya ma-entertain. So, I remain online almost every day. And almost all day. Napapatay lang ako ng cellphone pag matutulog na. Pag gising sa umaga, bukas ulit, online ulit. Baka kasi meron namang estudyanteng magtanong. So, ganyan ang buhay natin ngayon, no? Naka-anchor tayo, naka-ankla, naka-depend sa technology. So, all of these things will be incorporated into our teaching and in the learning of our pupils. Yan ang isa sa kanyang mga learning implications. No? Kahit yung mga maliliit na bata, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, they are already being introduced to computers and technology. Kasi nga, kailangan eh. Ganito na ang mundo natin ngayon eh. Hindi pwedeng puro sulat na lang sa blackboard si ma'am. Hindi pwedeng sa Manila paper pa rin nagli-lecture si sir. O sa likurit kalendaryo na karako. Hindi na pwede yung ganun. Okay. Assessment. Okay. Assessment tools should also contain these skills. Kapag tayo daw ay nag-assess, nag-evaluate, hindi na lang tayo puro paper and pencil test. Dapat makita din natin yung mga skills na yon sa ating pag-evaluate. No? Teachers may design or adopt learning standards that explicitly describe multidisciplinary skills. Sa assessment, sa evaluation, we will also require them to demonstrate multidisciplinary skills. Imagine that, no? Talagang pa na ngayon, integration is the key, no? Integration. Multidisciplinary approach, interdisciplinary approach. So, these are the things that you will do when you become teachers, no? These are the things that you will pay attention to when you become teachers later. Ganyan ang magiging buhay nyo kapag kayo naging guro na. Schools and teachers should also use a variety of applied skills. Kailangan ay maraming skills ang teachers. Para tayong mga superman, no? Maraming nire-require sa ating mga skills, mga knowledge, mga literacies. Multiple technologies. Buti kayo, sanay na sa technologies, no? You know how to use different kinds of software or applications. You are familiar with gadgets and computers and laptops. New ways of analyzing and processing information. Iba na ngayon ang pag-analyze ng information, iba na rin ang pag-process. Because of the availability of information, we handle them differently now. Nung una kasi, basta nakakuha ka ng information, parang yun na yun kasi wala nang ibang source. Ngayon, punta ka ng internet, nandun lahat ng kailangan mong information. And your problem is not really how to get the information, but to select or choose the one that is valid. Kung minsan nakatsamba ka pa ng fake na information, ay patay kang bata ka. So in the face of all of these things, no, sa harap ng mga bagay na ito, ang mga schools dapat din sila mag-adjust. Dapat sila mag-adapt and develop new ways of teaching and learning. Dahil nagbago na ang mundo, nagbago ang teknolohiya, dapat magbabago rin ang paraan ng pagtuturo at paraan ng pagkakatuto ng mga bata. so that we will be able to adjust to the kind of environment that we have at present. Okay, ang purpose ng schools is not just to prepare children for examinations. The purpose of schools is to develop skills that learners can use even after graduation. Yung mga knowledge and skills na nakukuha nila sa school, dapat nagagamit nila yan even after graduation in solving real-life problems. Okay. So, in teaching, our objective is not just for our learners to pass the examination. Our objective should not be just for our learners to get high scores. Our objective in teaching should be that they should learn skills. They should acquire competencies that they can use even after graduation. When they leave the classroom, when they leave the school, when they go out into the community, when they go back to the societies where they belong, they can use those skills to become productive members of their communities so that they can contribute towards the development of their communities. Yun ang purpose ng mga paaralan. So ako, magtuturo, hindi lang para mataas ang score ninyo, hindi lang para mataas ang grade. Ako ay magtuturo para makuha ninyo yung mga skills na kakailanganin ninyo later sa inyong pagtuturo. Yun ang purpose natin. Ganon din kayo. When you become teachers later, ang inyong gagawing layunin ay hindi lang para mataas ang scores or grades ng inyong mga pupils. Ang inyong magiging purpose, ang inyong magiging objective, ay magkaroon sila ng mga kaalaman, magkaroon sila ng mga skills, magkaroon sila ng competencies, magkaroon sila ng mga new literacies. Para pagtapos na sila mag-aral, gagraduate na, nandun sa kanila yung skills na magagamit nila so that they can develop their full potentials as persons. So that they can contribute to the development of their communities. They will become productive and responsible members of the society. Makakatulong sila sa kanilang kapwa at sa pamayanan. Hindi lang puro scores, hindi lang puro exams ang target ng education. The purpose of education is the development of the whole person. No? So yan ang inyong gawing objective later when you become teachers. Buko kalipat taas-taas ang score a grade. Okay. Let's talk about a paradigm shift for 21st century education. Itong tinatawag na paradigm, this is our way of looking at things. Yung ating paraan ng pagtingin or ano ang tingin natin sa mga bagay-bagay. That is what we call paradigm. So, there has been a paradigm shift, no? Pagbabago ng tingin ng mga bagay-bagay. Yan. Na natin kung ano itong mga pagbabagong ito. So here we will compare education before the 21st century. Sa column na ito, makikita natin yung description of education before. Yung luma, yung dati, yung matagal na. On the other column, we will see the description of 21st century education para natin makita yung paradigm shift, no? Yung paglipat, yung pag-iba ng paningin ng tao tungkol sa pag-aaral, tungkol sa curriculum, tungkol sa education. So, before, di ba, nabanggit natin kanina, karamihan on puros memorization of discrete facts eh. Yung nakahiwalay na mga information, memorize yan. Memorize this, memorize that. Memorize this prayer, memorize the multiplication table, although kailangan naman talagang memorize yun. No? Memorize the scientific names, memorize the presidents of the Philippines, memorize the capital of all countries in Europe, memorize the names of the presidents of United States, memorize the different currencies, ano ang tawag sa pera ng India, ano ang tawag sa pera ng Czechoslovakia, ano ang tawag sa pera ng things like those, puros ba memorization. That was before. Ngayon, sa 21st century education, what students know, can do, and are like after all the details are forgotten. Ano ang naiiwan sa bata pagkatapos niyang makalimutan yung mga detalye? What knowledge remains? Ang ibig sabihin, class, the focus is more on understanding. It's not just a matter of memorization, but more on understanding. Memorize mo nga ang scientific names ng lahat ng klase ng animal sa cat family. Kasi yung cat family, marami yan sila eh. Yung house cat, yung ordinary pusa, cat family, member yan. Tigre, leon, bobcat, cheetah, mga kwan yan, mga members of the cat family. Memorize mo lahat yun. And then no more. Basta memorize lang. There is no understanding. Siguro, mas malalim kung what are the common characteristics among these animals? Why do they belong to the same family? What are the similarities? What are the differences? How do they interact with one another in the jungle? Pag nagkita ang leon at tigre, what happens? Pareho silang nasa cat family. Tingnan mo yung itsura ng leon at tigre, di ba magkawig? Parang mga malalaking pusa lang. Merong konting difference sa designs. But basically, they are just big cats. No? So, it's instead of just memorizing their scientific names, it would be better for the child, the learner, to understand deeper the relationship between the different members of this cat family. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng pag nakalimutan na yung mga scientific names, ano ang matitira? Wala na ba? Pag wala na, ay hindi yun meaningful learning. Kasi yung madaling makalimutan yung mga scientific names eh. Marusmo yung kato. Limuti ka to. But understanding remains. Because understanding is not just one piece of information. It's the relationship among different bits of information. So hindi yun mawawala. Marusmo ka to. Ayan gihapon nida. So you see, that's the paradigm shift from memorization to comprehension. Yan ang isang pag-shift na paglipat. Okay. Here's another one. Lower order thinking skills from higher order thinking skills. So you see, magmula doon, kasi nga palaging memorization eh. Ay di ba yung memorization nasa lower level yon? Nasa kwan lang yun eh, nasa remembering eh. So, the focus shifted from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. So ngayon, ang tinatarget na ng mga teachers, ang tinatarget na ng learning is applying, analyzing, creating, evaluating, hindi na yung remembering lang. Understanding. Higher order thinking skills. So lumipat no, nag-shift yung paradigm, yung pagtingin ba. From being textbook driven, before teachers and learners were totally dependent on textbooks. Wala nang ibang pinagkukunan ng pinag-aaralan kundi puros textbook. Ngayon, nagre-research. Imagine that. Tibay, no? Na-research ang mga anak. Di ba sa high school, nag-research ba kayo noon? Kasi naalala ko si Dylan, bago graduate, gumawa ng 2 research eh. Mayroon sa qualitative, mayroon sa quantitative. Ay kayo noon, gumawa din? Teka, bakit ko kayo tinatanong? Hindi naman kayo pwedeng sumagot sa akin. Hirap talaga ng isang question natin, no? Well, anyway, siguro gumawa din kayo kasi requirement yata yun sa junior, sa senior high. So, the point is, from being textbook-driven, learners, teaching and learning, now shifted to being research-driven. So, information is not just spoon-fed or given directly to learners. They search for the knowledge and information themselves. Sila mismo ang naghahanap ng gusto nilang matutuhan. Okay? Here's another one. Passive learning to active learning. Yung passive learning is learning without active participation on the part of the learner. Nakatupo lang siya doon, nakikinig sa teacher, trying to absorb and learn everything that's coming from the teacher. Wala siyang ginagawa, nakaupo lang. Tanggap lang siya ng tanggap whatever the teacher is giving the learner. So, from that, ngayong 21st century na, active learning na tayo. Ano ibig sabihin? The learner is now an active participant in the learning process. Meron na siyang gagawin. Gagalaw siya. Meron siyang mga activities. Meron siyang mga outputs and products na isasubmit sa teacher as proof of his learning. So, active learning na yan. Hindi na yan passive. So, more on learning by doing or experiential learning. So here, children will manipulate objects, they will operate simple machines, or gadgets, or equipment, they will conduct experiments, they will do research, yung mga ganon, no? Active na sila eh. They are moving, they are doing something. Hindi yung nakasalampak lang sa kanilang mga upuan, waiting for the knowledge to come from the teacher. Okay. Here's another one. Learners work in isolation. Magkahiwalay yung mga estudyante. Juan is in one corner working, Pedro is also in another corner working. Si Katulfo naman ay nandun sa susunod na corner, solo lang siya doon. Mansing palitik sinra. There is no collaboration, there is no cooperation. Tapos na yung panahon na yan. Ngayon, sa 21st century, collaborative or participative or cooperative learning. The whole point is, children or learners work together, no? They work together in search of knowledge and information. As they work together, they learn. Ang tawag dyan, collaborative learning, participative learning, cooperative learning. Hindi siya natututo nang siya lang mag-isa. He learns with his peers, his classmates. Teacher-centered, parang napaliwanag ko na ito kanina eh. Teacher is the dispenser of knowledge, information, and attention. Everything comes from the teacher. Sabi nga natin kanina, in the traditional classroom, the teacher is considered as the sole, the only source of information, the only source of knowledge, and he is the final authority when it comes to the topic or lesson being studied. Ngayon, hindi na teacher-centered. Hindi na masyadong importante yung teacher doon sa loob ng classroom. Taga-guide na lang siya, taga-supervise, taga-facilitate. Ay, sino na ngayon ang pinakamahalagang tao sa loob ng classroom? The learner. The student. Kaya tinawag na student-centered. Ano ang nangyari sa teacher? Siya naging facilitator. Kung magkakaling facilitator class ay kay taga-ano baga? Tagapagpaganap. The teacher is there, but his role is limited to guiding, supervising, providing experiences. Ang maggagalawang, ang gagawa, ay yung mga bata. That is why in a classroom that is noisy, the children are busy, that means that they are learning. The teacher is there on the side. Taga-bantay lang siya, taga-supervise, taga-facilitate nga. Pero ang gumagawa ng activity yung mga bata. At the more they participate in the activity, the more they learn. Yan. Student-centered. Little to no student freedom. Wala daw halos freedom ang mga estudyante noon. Bakit ba? Bakit walang freedom? Kasi nga, everything they do is dictated by the teacher. No? Whatever the teacher said, the students followed. They obeyed. Do this, do that. Ginawa naman. Oh, natapos na. Let's do another activity. Let's do another thing. Yung freedom nila as learners is very limited. Unlike now, learners have great deal of freedom in terms, halimbawa, of choosing activities. Tinatanong ng mga teachers yan, ng mga bata, ano ang gusto niyo maging activity? Halimbawa, sa art activity, sa elementary, mga bata, ano ang gusto niyo i-drawing? Gusto namin mag-drawing ng animals. O sige, ang i-drawing ninyo, animals. Unlike before, mga bata, kumuha ng watercolor at Cooperative Learning. Mag-drawing kayo ng ibon. Ayaw kong mag-drawing ng ibon. Gusto ko ibang animals. Gusto ko may buhaya. Norakale o kay Atanasio na kaya mga buhaya. Mag-drawing ka ng bird. Ayaw ko nga, ma'am. Gusto ko yung buhaya. Hindi pwede. Drawing ka ng bird. Walang freedom, no? Ay ngayon, sa art activity, pinababayaan yung mga bata kung anong gusto nila. Drawing ka ng bird. If you like to draw a bird, you draw a crocodile if you want to draw a crocodile. Kung gusto mo ng dinosaur, drawing ka ng dinosaur. If you want to draw a horse, drawing ka ng kabayo. No? Tapos lagyan mo ng title sa baba, no? The Horse and the Yukaba. Oh, see? Students have a great deal of freedom. Discipline problems. Maraming problema daw doon sa disiplina, no? Because children or learners did not trust their teachers. Oh, you look at this, oh. No trust between educators and students. Students did not trust their teachers. The teachers did not trust their students. Walang tiwala sa isa't isa. Ang pangit-pangit ng relationship, no? Little student motivation. Walang tiwala sa teacher. So the learner is no longer motivated to learn. The teacher does not trust his or her students, so there is very little motivation to teach. So there is very little motivation on both parties. Learning is limited. Ngayon, there is less discipline problem. Teachers and students have mutual respect. No? Mayroon na sila ngayong respeto sa isa't isa. The teacher respects the students as learners, as persons, as individuals. The learners respect the teacher as their mentor. No? And therefore, this resulted to a higher motivation for teaching and learning. Kasi nga, nawala na yung kanilang duda Nawala na yung kanilang distrust for each other. So ngayon, masaya na sila. Fragmented curriculum. Ano pang ibig sabihin ng fragmented curriculum? Fragmented means compartmentalized. Nakahiwalay siya. This is the opposite of integrated. No? This is the opposite of integrated and interdisciplinary. Pag science lang, wala mang ibang pag-aaralan, basta science lang. Hindi na siya i-correlate, hindi na siya i-link sa ibang areas of study or ibang subjects. Basta science. English, puros English. Wala akong pakialam sa social studies mo, wala akong pakialam sa science mo. Basta ako magle-lesson about English. Is, are, subject, verb, agreement, past tense, present tense, things like those. Wala akong pakialam sa science mo. Magturo ka dyan ng science, magturo din ako ng English. That's the attitude. Before, ganun nung una. Ngayon, integrated na tayo. We fuse, we combine, we integrate subjects into one another. I think I have already explained this before, no? How this is done. Social studies, mag-aaral ng isang panahon. Halimbawa, panahon ng mga Amerikano. Mag-uusap yan sila ng English teacher or literature teacher. Tatanungin ng teacher sa literature, ano bang lesson mo ngayon sa social studies mo? Nandun kami sa panahon ng Amerikano. As a literature teacher, I will choose literary pieces from that time. At yun ang pag-aaralan namin sa English or sa literature. The same group of learners yan. So, habang sila ay natututo sa social studies ng paraan ng pamumuhay ng mga tao during that time, natututo sila sa literature or English ng mga literary pieces from that panahon, from that time. So their learning in one subject will be enhanced by their learning in another. Integrated. Grades taken from formal assessment measures. Ang measurers ko. Measures lang yan, hindi measurers. So usually may mga grades na kinocompute, nakalagay sa class record, mayroong mga transmutation tables. Ngayon, performance-based na. No? Performance as evidence of learning. Meron pa rin grades, siyempre, pero the grades are based on performance. Hindi yung paper and pencil tests all the time. Naalala niyo yan? I don't know. Kasi meron kaming experiences na ganito during our high school days. Pagkatapos ng lesson, halimbawa sa history, pagkatapos ng lesson, sabi ng teacher namin, get 1/4. Class, get 1/4 piece of paper. Number it from 1 to 10. Tapos number 1. Who is the President of the United States? Parang kwan lang ba? Parang quiz bee. Ayan. So dito sa 21st century education, performance-based. No? Talagang gagawin mo, i-demonstrate mo, gagawin mo, i-perform yung skills na nire-require sa'yo. Ayan. Performance-based. Assessment is for marking purposes. Nag-a-assess para may pagkunan ng grade. Dito naman, assessment is an important aspect of instruction to gauge learning outcome. Assessment is part of instruction in the 21st century education. As a matter of fact, one of the purposes of assessment is to improve or enhance instruction in addition to measuring student performance. No? So sa assessment, hindi lang yung puros paper and pencil test, but also performance-based. Plus, assessment is used to improve or enhance instruction. Bakit kaya mababa ang nakuha ng aking mga estudyante? Ano kaya naging pagkukulang ko sa aking teaching? Makikita doon ng teacher. Ganito pala, hindi ko pala naipaliwanag yung process ng mabuti. So, i-check ng teacher yung kanyang sarili. So, assessment is not only for the learners, but also for the teacher, to improve the teacher's teaching. So, yun yung assessment during for 21st century education. Low expectations. What students receive is what they get. What students receive is what they get compared with high expectations that students succeed in learning to high extent. Low expectations. Yung expectations, kung ano yung inaasahan natin, no? Expectations. Because students, or maybe even teachers, have low expectations, that is what they get. Halimbawa, ang mathematics teacher, magtuturo ng mga simpleng problems kasi sa tingin niya, yun lang ang kaya ng kanyang mga estudyante. Although that may not be necessarily true. Hindi niya tinetest na kung talagang mas matalino pa doon yung kanyang mga estudyante. Basta yun lang ang tingin niya. Hanggang ganito lang ang kaya ng mga students ko. Excuse me. So, ito lang ang ituturo ko rin sa kanila. You compare that with a teacher who has high expectations that students succeed in learning to high extent. Ibig sabihin, the teacher is expecting so much more from the learners. Mataas ang kanyang expectation. Kaya ito ng aking mga estudyante kahit mahirap. So, kaya nila itong matutuhan. Ito ang ituturo ko sa kanya. Dahil nga mataas yung kanyang expectations, sinipagan niya at ginalingan ang pagtuturo. ano ang nangyari? Natuto yung kanyang mga learners. So the learners learn more from the teacher who has high expectations than from the teacher who has low expectations. Yan ang pagkakaiba ng dalawang yan, no? Teacher is judged, parang nasa korte. No one else sees student work during evaluation, during assessment. Only the teacher sees the output, the work of the students. Nobody else. Hindi nakikita ng mga classmates, ng mga peers. Dito naman sa 21st century education, meron tayong tinatawag na mga peer evaluation, self-evaluation. In other words, there are many ways of evaluating the work of our learners. It's not always the teacher who evaluates. No. Even the parents can help during the assessment or evaluation process. Curriculum is irrelevant and meaningless to students. Bakit meaningless? Bakit meaningless yung kanilang curriculum? Kasi nga, it is not related to their experiences. It is not connected to their actual life experiences. Kaya meaningless sa kanila. Walang kahulugan. Hindi sila makarelate. Basta turo lang ng turo, walang pakialam yung teacher. Kung yun ay na-experience pa ng mga bata sa labas, kung yun ay may kaugnayan pa sa kanilang buhay, basta turo ako ng turo, ito ang lesson, ito ang subject, ito ang topic ngayon, turo tayo. O, nandyan kayong mga estudyante, try to absorb this. Walang connection sa kanilang buhay. Hindi nila makita kung paano nila magagamit sa kanilang buhay. So, to them, the lesson does not mean anything. Meaningless nga eh. In the 21st century education, curriculum is connected to students' interests. At dahil konektado sa kanilang interests and experiences, they can relate to the lesson. Nakikita nila yung kanilang sarili dun sa sitwasyon. So, the learning process becomes meaningful to them because they can see its value. Nakikita nila na mahalaga ito sa buhay nila. Nakikita nilang magagamit nila ito sa actual nilang mga hinaharap sa buhay outside the classroom, outside the school. Pag uwi sa bahay, magagamit yung mga lessons na natutuhan. So sa kanila, mayroong kahulugan, may meaning, may value. Yeah. Kaya nga palagi natin i-connect sa kanilang mga karanasan, no? Yung kanilang mga prior experiences, prior knowledge. Let us take them all into consideration. I-ugnay natin sa kanilang buhay at mga experiences yung lesson. Print is the primary vehicle of learning and assessment. Usually nga, textbook-based. Print eh. Textbook-based. Ngayon, iba-iba na ang mga ginagawa na. Performances, projects, and multiple forms of media. Iba-ibang klaseng media ang ginagamit. No? May audiovisual, mayroong images, mayroong audio files, hindi lang puro print, hindi lang puro libro all the time. Ito yung mga ginagamit na ngayon sa learning and assessment. Multimedia. Student diversity is ignored. Yung diversity is pagkakaiba-iba. As already pointed out many times before, our learners differ in a lot of ways. No? Sabi nga natin, every child is unique, every learner is unique. So one learner is different from all the rest. Ganun din yung susunod. He is different from all the rest. So, ini-ignore yan noon sa old system of education. Ignore yan lahat. Ngayon, curriculum and instruction address diversity. If you have learners coming from a different cultural background, you will plan lessons for them, activities for them. Ibang approach sa kanila. Kung meron namang galing sa iba namang kultura, iba din ang approach sa kanila, no? Kasi magkaiba nga sila ng cultural background eh. So, iba yung kanilang attitudes, iba yung kanilang pananaw sa buhay. They have different perspectives of things. They have different beliefs. They have different motivations. So, we have to take all of these things into consideration. Mahirap nga lang kasi iba-iba nga yung mga bata. But, well, sometimes we can make things easier by initiating activities that can be done by all kinds of learners coming from different cultural backgrounds. Halimbawa, isang activity na pwedeng gawin ng, ganito lang gawin natin example. Kunyari sa klase mo, mayroong mga iba't ibang relihiyon, no? Or iba-ibang sekta, iba-ibang simbahan, may Catholic, may SDA, may PIC, may Foursquare. Ganun lang gawin nating example. So dahil iba-iba yan, magkaiba-iba ng mga paniniwala yan. So sa lesson mo, magle-lesson ka ng something that is acceptable to everybody. No? Yung pwedeng tanggapin ng lahat. No? Isang activity na pwedeng tanggapin ng lahat. No? Dito papasok yung resourcefulness and creativity of the teacher. No? Kapag magaling ka sa pag-isip ng mga activities, magagawa mo yun. So you do not have to think of an activity for each type of learner. Isip ka na lang ng isa, pwede sa lahat. Medyo madali ngayon ang trabaho mo as a teacher. Students just follow orders and instructions while listening to teachers. Ito yung tinatawag nating passive learner. The learner is just there accepting or receiving information from the teacher. This is passive learning. Dito naman, active learning. Students are empowered to lead at initiate. Yung mga bata mismo, yung mga learners mismo ang nag-iisip ng mga activities, anong gagawin niya. They create solutions, they solve problems, sometimes on their own, no? With very minimal supervision and direction from the teacher. Talagang mga learners ngayon, sila mismo yung nag-initiate, no? Silang mag-start. Ano ngayon ang papel ng teacher? Ay di yun nga, taga-facilitate siya, taga-provide ng opportunities. No? Hindi katulad ng una, sa kanya galing lahat ng information. Para siya, kumbaga sa tubig nga ay para siyang water dispenser. Yung bata ay nauuhaw, kukuha ng tubig. In terms of teaching and learning, yung bata ay mayroong gustong matutuhan, kukunin niya sa teacher. Itatanong, sasabihin naman sa kanya ng teacher directly. Tapos na yung mga panahong yun. For 21st century education, the students are the ones who look for the knowledge. The students are the ones who look for the information. They lead, they initiate, they have the power. So, they become knowledge generators or knowledge producers. They generate, they produce knowledge for themselves. No? They create solutions to problems. Diba no? Mga learners nga sa literacy in the 3 R's. Meaning, the focus is on the basic. The focus is on the fundamental skills. 3 R's. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Ngayon, hindi na pwede puro 3 R's na lang. Tayo ngayon ay multiple literacies. Multiple set of knowledge. Multiple set of skills and competencies. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng literacy. Set of knowledge, set of skills, set of competencies. So, hindi na pwede ngayon yung 3 R's lang, no? Life is already too complicated for the 3 R's. Okay. Factory model based upon the needs of employers for the industrial age of the 19th century. Noong una, ang mga bata ay tinuturuan ng mga skills na gagamitin nila pag ka-graduate, magtatrabaho sa mga factories. 19th century, ito yung mga 1818, no? From 1800 to 1899. Yan yung 18th century. It was during this century that factories sprouted in many parts of the world kasi nag-uumpisa yung pag-boom ng technology, ng science. So, nagsulputan yung napakaraming mga factories. Factories ng mga kotse, factories ng mga damit, mga toys, na kung ano-anong machines dyan. So, yung mga learners, sila tinuturoan specific skills that they can use so that when they graduate, they can apply in factories. Imagine that, no? Factory model. Ngayon, global model based upon the needs of a globalized high-tech society. Ang kailangan ngayon ng mundo, yung globalized graduate. Ibig sabihin, a graduate who has the skills to work with people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, graduates who possess different kinds of skills, communication skills, technological skills, things like those. Hindi siya limitado sa isang skill. Globalized nga siya eh. So that's the trend now. So, halimbawa kayo, tinuturuan kayo how to become teachers, hindi lang puro teaching strategies ang tinuturo sa inyo. You are also taught different kinds of skills like creative thinking skills, analytic thinking skills. You are also taught how to get along with people coming from different backgrounds. Kasi nga, pag naging teacher kayo, yung mga pupils ninyo, iba't ibang mga backgrounds ang panggagalingan yan. Iba't ibang families, iba't ibang relihiyon, iba't ibang economic backgrounds. So, marunong ka dapat makitungo sa lahat ng mga batang yan coming from different backgrounds. Okay, 8 attributes of 21st century education and their implications. Attributes meaning characteristics. Ano ba yung mga characteristics of 21st century education? At ano ang mga implikasyon nito sa atin bilang mga teachers? First, it is integrated and interdisciplinary. Nabanggit ko na ito kanina eh. Integrated and interdisciplinary. We use different areas of knowledge. We combine, we fuse, we integrate. Pinagsasama-sama natin yung mga subjects, mga disciplines in teaching. No? So, anong implikasyon nito sa teacher? Natural, dapat ay marunong tayo ng mga iba't ibang mga subjects. Kung ikaw ay science teacher, dapat marunong ka rin sa ibang areas din. You may not be as good as you are in other areas as you are in mathematics. Halimbawa, mathematics major ka. So, natural, magaling ka doon. Dapat marunong ka rin kahit konti sa ibang areas kasi mag-integrate ka na eh. Your knowledge, in other words, should not be limited to mathematics alone. Ayan. Lalo na sa elementary, di ba? Sa elementary, the teacher handles or teaches all the subjects. Turo ka ng English, turo ka ng Filipino, turo ka ng science, turo ka ng mathematics, turo ka ng values, turo ka ng physical, sa'yo lahat. So, dapat marunong ka ng mga subjects na ito. Kasi na ikaw magtuturo ng lahat. Technologies and multimedia, yan. Hindi na maiwasan ngayon, no? Class, ang paggamit ng technology. Talagang, we are really dependent on technology inside the classroom. You look at classrooms today, wala ka na halos makikitang classroom na walang projector, walang LED TV, walang laptop si teacher, walang cellphones, walang gadget, walang mga, ano ba yung mga ginagawa, walang mga printers. Technology yan lahat eh. These are all equipment, these are all gadgets, these are all devices that the teacher can use in teaching. Technology and multimedia. O yung sources natin of information, internet, technology pa rin, multimedia pa rin. In our classrooms, we present video clips, we present movies, we present audio files, we present still pictures, iba't ibang uri ng media. Multimedia. Global classrooms. Yung mga issues natin na pinag-aaralan, hindi lang yung local, hindi lang yung nakikita natin sa ating community. Yung mga global warming, mga pandaigdigang issues yan, no? Mga pandaigdigang problema yan. These are global issues, these are global problems, and these things are studied inside the classroom. So yung perspective ng mga bata, yung kanilang pang-unawa, ay lumalawak na, hindi lang yung limited sa kanilang mga baryo, mga barangay, mga municipality. Ang sakop ng kanilang pangunawa ay pang malawakan, global na. Lifelong learning. This is the trend now, no? We aim for lifelong learning. Ang itinuturo natin ngayon ay mga skills na magagamit ng mga estudyante even if they have already graduated. They can use these skills in learning more skills, in learning more knowledge, in learning more information. Sila na mismo ang mag-aaral, sila na mismo ang magtuturo sa kanilang sarili later if they already have these lifelong learning skills. Kasi independent learners na sila eh. In other words, they can learn on their own even without the presence, even without the direction, even without the supervision, even without the guidance of the teacher. Independent learners na sila eh. They can learn on their own. Parang kayo, bigyan ko lang kayo ng topic, nare-research nyo, nare-report nyo, see, nape-present nyo, you can answer questions. Independent learners na kasi kayo. Student-centered, we have already discussed this, no? The primary consideration are the interests, the needs, the abilities, the experiences, the aspirations, the motivations of the learner. Sila ang mga isinasaalang-alang ng teacher in preparing lessons, in preparing activities, in preparing learning experiences for the pupils or for the learners. You look at this, learning styles, interests, need, and abilities. Pati yung kanilang learning styles, meaning the way they process information is taken into consideration by the teacher. So pag nalaman ng teacher, marami sa kanyang estudyante ay mga visual learners, doon siya magpaplano. Gagawa siya ng maraming diagrams, present siya ng mga tables, meron siyang mga pictures, kasi nga alam niya that most of her pupils are visual learners. 21st century skills. Ano itong mga 21st century skills? Critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, decision making, ICT literacy skills. Yan ang mga kailangan ng mga tao ngayong 21st century. At ito ang itinuturo sa mga school, sa mga bata, no? Even in the lower level or lower grades, they are already taught how to analyze, how to apply principles, ang ginagawa na yun sa elementary. So they grow up as critical thinkers. They do not just accept information, no? Kung sila palaisip, palatanong. Yan. Project-based and research-driven. Di ba kanina na-point out natin, before, in the traditional classroom, teaching and learning was textbook-based. It is textbook-based. Lessons are taken from the textbook. The teacher does not divert from what is indicated in the textbook. Wala na silang ibang source, puro textbook na lang. Dito, sa 21st century, project-based, research-driven. Gagawa ng project. Yung project na yun may not even be in a textbook. Basta gagawa sila ng project, while doing the project, doon sila matututo. Halimbawa, ang lesson is about sanitation, about environment. Anong project ang pwedeng gawin dito? Gawa ng compost pit. Habang gumagawa sila ng compost pit, doon sila matututo. Bakit kailangan itapon ang basura dito? Ano ang effect nito sa environment? Ano ang nangyayari sa basura pag nilagay sa compost pit? Things like those. Habang ginagawa nila, yan, nag-aaral naman sila. Nagre-research, nagbabasa, tingin sa libro, tingin sa internet. They collaborate with one another. They ask the teacher. So hanggang matapos yung compost pit, nanawaan nila na yung lesson. See? Project-based. Hindi yung ikikwento lang sa kanilang ikikwento ng teacher. class, ganito ang environment, this is what happens to garbage, blah, blah, blah. See, passive learning yun. Ito, project-based and research-driven. Relevant, rigorous, and real world. Puro R, no? Daming R. Relevant, rigorous, real world. Ano ibig sabihin ng relevant? Kung siya, may kaugnayan siya, relevant, konektado siya. Konektado sa ano? Dapat. Connected or relevant to the real life experiences of learners. Why do we need to make lessons relevant? So that the learners will be able to relate to the lesson. And the lesson will become meaningful to them. They will see its value. In doing so, they will be more motivated to learn. Nakikita kasi nilang pakinabang or gamit sa kanilang buhay. Rigorous, talagang very, what do you call this? Rigorous. Yun bang, rigorous kasi is the opposite of relaxed. Nung una, langay-langay, pauntoy-untoy, relax lang, pasok si teacher, blah, 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 class dismissed. Eh, ngayon, maraming activities, maraming mga requirements, rigorous yan. And real world. Sabi nga natin, galing sa mga actual experiences of the learners. Lessons come from the actual experiences of the learners. Relevant, rigorous, real world. Okay. What kind of attributes, what kind of characteristics do teachers need for 21st century education? Kayo, you are 21st century teachers eh. What kind of characteristics, what characteristics should you have? Anong mga klaseng katangian dapat mayroon o dapat magkaroon kayo? Tingnan natin. Multi-literate ka dapat, kapatid. You should know how to use various technologies in teaching. So, parang hindi ito masyadong problema class no kasi gamay na ninyo yung mga technology na yan. You are multi-literate. You know how to use technology, you know how to socialize with people. Still because of technology, hindi kayo limited sa simple reading and writing. So as far as multi-literacy is concerned, this is not much of a problem for you. Pero kung mas lalo ka pang matututo, mas lalo mas maganda, no? Multi-specialist. The area of specialization of a teacher should not be limited to one aspect, one area. No? Diba sabi nga natin kanina, because you will teach all subjects, kasi elementary teacher ka, you will teach all subjects, you must have significant knowledge in every area. Marunong ka ng language, marunong ka sa numbers, marunong ka sa science, marunong ka sa social studies. Kasi ikaw magtuturo ng lahat ng yan. Okay. Multi-skilled. Multi-skilled. Multi means many, no? So pag sinabing multi-skilled, marami kang skills. No? Well, teachers are really expected to have many skills, no? Tingnan natin yung mga teachers diyan sa elementary, maraming skills, no? Marunong na magturo, marunong pang mag-decorate, yan. Mga marunong mag-landscape, yan. Kasi sila din ang papaganda ng kanilang ground, ng classroom structuring sila. Marami silang skills, multi-skilled. Teachers cope with the demand for widening learning opportunities by being skillful. Kayo din, dapat kayo maging skillful in more than one way, no? Hindi yung turo ka ng Filipino, and that's all. Wala ka ng ibang alam gawin sa mundo. Hindi yung multi-skill. Sa bagay, wala naman sigurong gano'n, no? But teacher kasi, talagang people will expect that we have many skills, no? Pag kita tayo nag-skills, masaling kang tao ay sos. Agar maestro, agar maestra, yan. Okay, self-directed. Teachers are responsible for various aspects of school life and know how to initiate action to realize the learning goals of the students and the educational goals of the country at large. Self-directed. A person who is self-directed has initiative. Ano naman itong initiative? Ang isang taong may initiative, kusang kikilos, kusang gagalaw, kusang gagawa, kusang magtatrabaho, kusang gagawin ng isang bagay, dahil alam niyang dapat talaga yung gawin. So, if a teacher has initiative, if a teacher has, if a teacher is self-directed, he will move even without the request or command or order from the principal. Kasi may initiative na siya eh. Nasira yung bakod, ay mayroon naman siyang kakayahan. Yung teacher, may resources, mayroon siyang time, mayroon siyang skill. Hindi siya naghuyat ng asugot principal, oy, pag-aayos naman yung ating bakod. Kusa man niyang gagawin. Yan. Kasi meron naman siyang gamit. Kunyari, nagpagawa siya ng bahay, may mga sobrang materials. Meron naman siyang skill. Kasi, kunyari, dati siyang nagtatrabaho ng mga ganyan. Meron siyang time. Meron siyang opportunity. Gagawin na kusa. Meron kasi mga taong kailangan mo talagang utusan before he moves, no? Before he does something. Yung taong yun, walang initiative, no? Halimbawa, very simple example sa classroom natin. Puno na yung basurahan. Nagpapang-awas ito mga basura. Uyat na hiwas para itapon siya kasi walang utos from the teacher eh. Nagpapang-udag ito mga pieces of paper, mga sobrang pagkaon during recess. Maghihintay kasi yun na, Baknoy, pakitapon yung basura. Yes, sir. Pag walang utos, wala rin galaw. So, nandun yung basura. Walang initiative pag ganon. Hindi yung self-directed. Pag self-directed at may initiative, ganito. Nakita ni Buknoy yung basurahan, puno na. May langaw, at saka agawas-awas. Sabi ni Buknoy, puno itong aming class ka na. Itatapon ko na. Walang utos yan, galing sa teacher. Yun, may initiative. Teachers in the 21st century should be self-directed. They should have initiative, know how to initiate action. So you see, initiative. Kusang palo, kusang galaw. Yan. Lifelong learner. Okay. Just like our students, we, teachers, should also aim for lifelong learning. Hindi nangangahulugan na dahil tayo ay mga teachers na, ay hindi na rin tayo magsisikap na matuto pa. No? As a matter of fact, as teachers, it is incumbent upon us. It is our responsibility to keep on learning. If we stop learning, we will be left behind by the world. We will be left behind by technology. We might even be left behind by our own learners. No? Ay si sir, ay si ma'am, hindi pa niya alam ang ganito. Dugay na yun nasa kalibutan, ma'am. Dugay na yun nasa kalibutan, sir. Lifelong learning is not only for pupils or for learners. No? Lifelong learning is also for teachers. Let us not stop learning. Let us not stop reading para matuto tayo. We are flexible. Kanina pa, flexible na yan. We should be able to adapt to certain situations. Pag nagbago ang sitwasyon, dapat marunong kaagad tayo mag-adjust. Pag nagbago ulit, adjust ulit. Yan. Katulad ngayon, pandemya, adjust tayo. Pagkatapos ng pandemic, adjust ulit. Iba na naman ang ating sitwasyon. Okay, teaching can be problematic sometimes. No? May mga panahon na talagang may mga problems kang ma-encounter, mga challenges, difficulties. Teachers should be able to solve or hurdle or overcome those problems. Teachers should be creative problem solvers. Pag may problema, dapat mahanapan natin siya ng solution in a creative way. Nasira ang bintana ng iyong classroom, anong gagawin mo? Pinalit hangin kag imo kulungan in classroom. What will you do? Mayroon kang pasaway na pupil. What will you do? Mayroon kang pupil na palaging absent. What will you do? Those are problems. So, we should be able to find solutions for these problems. Critical thinkers. Dapat ang mga teachers daw ay critical thinkers. We should be inquisitive, just like our pupils. We should ask questions. We should weigh things. Dapat tinitimbang-timbang natin ang mga bagay-bagay before believing them, before accepting them. We should be discriminating in our tastes, in our opinions, in our ideas. Dapat iniisip natin yan lahat, hindi yung tanggap ng tanggap. Tapos post pa sa Facebook, nabasa ko itong ganito, hindi mo pala alam, hindi pala totoo yun. Fake news pala. Nadamay ka pa. Okay, so as teachers, we should have that passion, we should have that strong feelings towards excellent teaching. Teaching is a calling Parang tinawag ka ng Panginoon na magturo ka. Calling yan, plus it's a vocation, no? So we must have that passion. We must have that strong desire to teach. Dapat nasa puso natin yan. Nandun talaga yung pagnanais natin. Yung desire na makapagturo, no? It can be very fulfilling, no? Masarap sa pakiramdam na nakapagturo ko ng maayos. Nakikita mo may natutuhan sa iyo mga pupils mo, mga learners, tuwang-tuwa sila. Natuto sila kay Sir at saka kay Ma'am. Magsadya itong mga anak. I tell you, mas masaya yung teacher pag ganyan kasi masarap sa pakiramdam talaga yan. The knowledge that you have imparted something, the knowledge that you have facilitated learning, solve na solve yung araw mo pag gano'n. So, we must always have that passion in our hearts, no? As teachers. Kasi pag nawala yun, wala. Pauntoy-untoy nilang pagtuturo. Huyat kat sweldo, huyat kat bill, huyat kat time, huyat kat pauli sa hapon. Ganon ang magiging buhay mo as teacher, no? Pero pag may passion, may strong dedication and commitment to our profession, pagbati pa nga na sa agay, excited papasok na ako. Magtuturo ako. Yan, ganyan. Kasi may passion siya. And high emotional quotient. Yung high emotional quotient, our ability to understand feelings, no? Yung IQ, intellectual or intelligence quotient, talino yun ang utak. Itong emotional quotient, talino ng puso, talino ng ating damdamin. This is our ability to understand feelings, whether it's our own feelings or the feelings of other people. This means that we have to be very sensitive to the feelings of others, whether it's a co-teacher, whether it's a learner, no? Kasi kung minsan, yung isang bagay na akala natin ay simple lang, hindi nakakasakit, yun pala masakit na sa mga kasama natin, like teachers and students, no? Halimbawa, yung mga pagbibiro, jokes, akala mo, joke lang yun sa'yo, simple lang, pero masakit na pala yun sa kausap mo, no? I don't know if you have already experienced that with me. Kasi ako, mahilig ako magbiro, no? That's my personality. Mahilig ako magbiro. And sometimes, my jokes go beyond what is polite, no? My jokes cross the line. Yan, yung ibig sabihin. Sometimes my jokes cross the line. Sa akin yung may patawa, joke, wala lang, ha. Pero kung minsan pala dun sa kausap ko at nagjo-joke ay may nasasaktan na, no? Masakit na pala sa kanya. Hindi ko alam. I don't know if you have already experienced that with me, no? Kung nangyari na yan sa atin, sa inyo, na-joke ko at masakit na pala sa iyo, ay pasensya ka na lang sa akin. Joke lang yun, patawa lang. After that, wala na rin yun. Kaya lang kung minsan nga ay masakit pala. Sorry na lang kapag lumampas ako sa aking mga jokes. No? Alam niya namang ganun ang ugali ko, kaya kulang tayo. Okay. Now, mahaba-haba itong ating topic. Common 21st century technology tools for learning. Okay. Ito yung mga examples of websites that we can visit and use in our teaching. Yung iba dito familiar sa akin, yung iba naman hindi. Siguro yung iba familiar din sa inyo, yung iba hindi. Tingnan natin kung anong mga pwede nating i-share dito. First, affinity groups. Sa internet ito, mga websites. These are groups or communities that unite individuals with common interests. Parang kung i-compare natin ito, parang group sa Facebook with common interests. Halimbawa, may mga groups din sa Facebook that cater to people with common interest. Halimbawa, nag-join ako dyan sa isang group, yung group about cats, no? Mahilig kasi ako sa pusa, no? So, yung group na yon, wala silang ginawa kundi mag-upload ng mga pictures of cats in different positions, different kinds of cats, iba-ibang hitsura, yung iba cute, yung iba hindi masyado, pero karamihan talaga ang ganda ng mga pictures ng mga pusa. And I really enjoy looking at these pictures. Affinity groups yan. Pwede gamitin yan sa teaching, no? Hindi yung pusa mismo, ibig kong sabihin ay mga groups. Katulad natin, may Facebook group. Upload kayo ng video, upload din ako ng video. I think we learn together, no? Affinity groups yan. Ito, familiar na sa atin, blogs. Web blogs or blogs. Yung blogs pala ay web blogs, no? Hindi, nung sinabi ko doon sa last video, parang sinabi ko doon na yung blog ay pinagsamang bit at saka byte yata yun or log Kaya naging blog. Ganon pala ang origin niya. Blogs comes from web, meaning the internet, at saka logs o yung record. Weblogs or blogs are interactive websites. Alam natin yung blogs, no? We are already familiar with blogs. So yeah, pwede natin gamitin yan sa teaching natin. Hanap tayo ng mga blogs na related to the lesson, ipa-search sa mga estudyante, they will learn from that. Pipili lang tayo ng blogs na wholesome, no? Baka kung ano ng mga blogs yan, ay mablagadag kita sa parents, no? Mr. Fadera, bakit yan ito ang tinitingnan ng website ng mga anak ko? Loko ka, Bakit nakabikini yung patay kang bata ka, bigla kang Picasso. Tingnan natin yung mga vlogs. E-portfolio. Alam na natin yung portfolio, no? It's a collection of a student's work. It's a compilation of the outputs of the student, no? So dito dahil e-portfolio it is in electronic form. Yeah. Halimbawa sa English, yung mga essays, mga poems na pinagsusulat niya, may files lahat. Nakakompile, yun ang kanyang e-portfolio. Yeah. So pwede rin gamitin yan sa classroom, sa teaching, no? Hypertext. Hypertext, ito yata yung mga ginagamit sa mga websites, no? Hypertext. Kaya nga, sa umpisa ng mga websites, mayroon yung HTTP ba? Something like that, no? HTTP. I think it's HTTP. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Yon. HTTP. Mga websites yan, hypertext. Ginagamit yan sa kung ano-ano. May mga hypermedia, may animation, may video. Just like an ordinary website. Hypertext. Podcast. Ano itong podcast? Naka-experience na ko ng podcast. Parang man siya, parang broadcast. Kung sa radyo, broadcast. Pag sa internet, podcast. Punta ka sa, halimbawa, sa inyo yung mga gumagamit ng Spotify. Sa Spotify kasi hindi lang puro music, no? May mga podcast yan. Ako nakikinig ako ng mga podcast. Sometimes I listen to Jake Tapper, yung reporter ba sa CNN. Sometimes I also listen to Chris Cuomo, kay Farid Zakaria, nakikinig din ako. Mga podcast yan. They broadcast through the internet. Kaya lang ang tawag nila ay podcast, hindi broadcast. Pag sa radyo, broadcast. So yun, you can also use that. Web 2.0. Second generation of web-based communities that demonstrate the participatory literacies that students need for the 21st century. I have never visited this website. Ano kayang itsura ng website na ito? Siguro katulad din ng ibang mga websites na may learning resources. Usually kasi pag website, ganun at ganun lang din eh. The same materials, the same resources. They just differ in design. So pag website, usually mayroon niyang text. May mababasa ka, usually mayroon ding pictures. So, mayroon ka titingnan ng mga pictures. Sometimes there are video clips, naka-embed doon sa web page. Sometimes may audio. Sometimes may mga links. You click the link, you will be directed to another website. Usually, ganyan lang naman ang mga websites, no? Pare-pareho sila in terms of materials, in terms of content. Nagkakaiba-iba na lang sila sa design. Siguro ganyan din yan. Kasi hindi ko pa napupuntahan yung eksaktong website na yan. MySpace, ito. Parang social networking site. Similar to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know kung inabot ninyo yung Friendster noon. Kasi nauna kong, before Facebook, I used Friendster. Yung Friendster, parang Facebook din. Social media. I post, I make posts, people comment, I reply, they comment, parang Facebook nga. Medyo iba lang yung kanyang interface, but basically it's still about socializing among people. No? We exchange pictures, we react to one another's posts. Ewan ko lang kung bakit nawala yon. Kasi nung lumabas yung Facebook, mas sikat na yung Facebook, mas maganda yung kanang design, at saka parang mas mabilis, no, yung Facebook. You can upload more pictures, you can upload videos, you can upload audio files, you can make blogs, you can make your own personal digital diary. Maraming features, no, yung Facebook, nawala dun sa Friendster. Kaya siguro nawala yung Friendster, biglang sumikat yung Facebook. MySpace is similar to that. And Second Life, hindi pa nga tapos ang ating first life ay meron Second Life. Virtual world naman ito. May mga avatars. Yung parang mga cartoon characters, mga class na ginagamit to represent the user, no? Yung mga nag-ML, very familiar ito sa mga avatars, Avatars. So instead of seeing your face in the site, makikita yung avatar. So, they explore, they socialize, pero hindi nakikita yung kanilang tunay na itsura. Ang nag-socialize yung kanilang mga avatars, no? Halimbawa ako, ang gagamitin kong avatar is a lion. So doon sa site, I'm a lion. Itsura ko lion. Ibang klase din ito. Second Life talaga. So, kanya-kanyang pili ng avatars. No? Siguro yung iba, bulaklak naman. Alam mo sa mga babae, bulaklak. Or yung iba siguro ang avatar, mga birds, mga strange animals, mga dinosaurs, mga cartoon characters, si Batman. Everything is possible in the internet. You can take on any kind of persona in the internet. Wiki, very common din ito. Pag mayroong information na kailangan, punta ng Wikipedia. Wiki. Wikis enable students to create, comment upon. Yung Wikipedia, you can edit the posts there. Yung kilala natin, no? Alam natin ito lahat itong Wikipedia, very popular ito, very common. Na-edit yung mga entries doon, no? Na-edit. Pwede mong palitan if you know how to log in to the if you know how to log into Wikipedia, you can edit it. Pwede mong palitan. That's the danger with Wikipedia, no? Anybody can change the information. Kaya nasa research, hindi masyadong ginagamit yung Wikipedia because it's not trustworthy, no? Unlike articles from journals na talagang authoritative. Semantic web, I have never used this before. Search engine. Similar to Google, Ask, Jeeves. Okay, so ganon. Punta ka ng semantic web, search something, parang Google lang siya. Parang wala nang gumagamit ng mga semantic web na ito. As a matter of fact, this is the first time that I have read about this website, semantic web. Kasi tayo, pag mayroon tayong hanapin, our first tendency is to go to Google. O, di ba? Ganyan kayo. Ako rin, ganyan din. pag may search na information, the first choice is Google. So much so, and this is very common, no? This happens throughout the world. So much so that the word Google is now used in ordinary conversation, and its meaning is to search. Di ba? Sir, I would like to find this information. Where do I find it? Google it. Ang ibig sabihin, search it. Search it in Google. Yeah. So, tayo, Google lahat. We are Google people. Webkins. Ano naman ito? Internet simulation wherein children learn pet care and other skills. Website na meron silang mga, kunyari, alaga. There was a time in Facebook na meron yung Farmville yata yun, no? You create your own farm. Kunyari, nagtatanim ka doon, you water the plants. It's a virtual farm. Yan. Maraming na humaling yun doon sa Farmville na yun. Ewan ko kung bakit nawala yun. Ang pumalit sa kanya yung totoo mga plantita. Ayaw na ng virtual plants. Gusto ay real plants na. Dito, mga alaga naman. So, kunyari, mayroon kang alagang rabbit. Pagkainin mo siya, take care of him or her. Ayun, hanggang lumaki yung rabbit. Pero virtual lang ito. Puro sa computers lang yan. Ito. Everybody knows this. YouTube. Lahat tayo marunong mag-YouTube. We upload videos into YouTube. We download videos from YouTube. Lahat halos nasa YouTube eh. Hindi marunong gumamit ng isang bagay, isi-search sa YouTube. You want to learn how to cook a particular recipe, you go to YouTube. Hindi ka marunong mag-install ng isang gadget, you go to YouTube. Nandyan lahat sa YouTube. Google Docs. Okay. It allows students to collaborate with other people and share documents. This is a website where we can share documents. Mag-upload ako ng document, pwede mong ma-access. Upload ko ng document, pwede ko rin ma-access. Palitan tayo ng documents. EasyBib. I have never used this before. This is about citations. Di ba sa research, mayroong mga citations, and then we arrange the elements. Nandun yung pangalan ng author, title of the book, yung kanyang publication number, publication date, and so on and so forth. Dito, siya na mismo ang magkakamada. Siya ang mag-arrange, no? Just enter the elements. Lagay mo yung title, lagay mo yung author, lagay yung year of publication. Siya na ang mag-format, siya na ang mag-arrange, siya ang maglalagay ng mga... Siya ang mag-cite, siya ang gagawa ng citation, no? Automatic ba siya? Prezi. Is this Prezi or Prezi? Pre-made creative presentation templates. Kwan lang ito. Parang hawig ng PowerPoint. Yeah. Yung PowerPoint ngayon, may template na rin eh. Social media, ito. Lalo itong very, very common and very, very popular. Facebook, lahat tayo mayroong Facebook account eh. Sabi nga ngayon, pag wala kang account sa social media, you do not exist as a person. So, meron tayong Facebook. At hindi lang yung tig-isang account tayo. Ikatigro, ikatigtatlo, ikatapat, ikatlima. Iba-iba ang pangalan, iba-iba ang password, iba-iba ang pinopost. Yan. Bakit ganon? Kasi yan ang kanyang pangligaw eh. Yung isang account, nililigawan, isang babae. Yung isang account, iba namang babae, nililigawan. So, ibang pictures niya, ibang pictures. Yan. So, in the end, meron siyang mga nililigawan. Puro naman siya busted, ang ngayang sa edad. Oh. Merong Facebook, may Twitter, may Instagram. Hindi ko alam yung Edmodo at saka Schoology. I have never accessed this sites before. Baka kayo, nagagamit na kayo ng Edmodo at saka Schoology. Hindi ako familiar sa mga yan. So, the whole point here is social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, etc., can be used as instructional tools, no? Pwede silang gamitin sa pagtuturo. Sabi ko nga kanina, this all depends on the creativity of the teacher. Depende na lang yan sa inyo kung paano mong gagamitin in a good way, in a desirable way, these different websites, these different media platforms. Nandyan yan eh. It's already part of our life. Gamitin natin sa maayos at mabuting paraan para tayo makapagturo ng maayos din. Smart boards and audience response systems, bulletin boards. Smart boards are the equivalent of bulletin boards. Electronic lang siya, pero ang katumbas niya, yung concept niya is bulletin board. You write, halimbawa, dito sa school natin, meron tayong bulletin board doon. You write an announcement, everybody will read it, they will be informed. Dito naman, in electronic form, smart board siya. You post something, people will read it, they will be informed. Para ka lang nag-announce sa internet. Read, write, think, org. What happens here? Repository, lagayan. No? Imbakan, yan, repository. Of standards-based literacy lessons that offer teachers instructional ideas for internet integration. So, para siyang library, anong nakalagay doon? Instructional ideas for teachers, particularly in the use of internet integration. Paano gagamitin ng internet sa pagtuturo? Makakakuha ka dito ng information sa readwritethink.org. Yeah. WebQuest page provides WebQuest on an array of topics across content areas with a template for creating one's own. Topics across content areas. Okay. Parang electronic library. No? Electronic library. Topics across content areas. You can get topics from different areas. Science, mathematics. So pag sinabing science, marami naman dyan. May mga physics, chemistry. Lahat ng topics, lahat ng areas, makakakuha ka doon ng materials. Para siyang electronic library. Isang website na para siyang library. Parang, alam mo, Britannica, no? Encyclopedia siya, pero electronic siya. Nasa internet. Parang ganyan siya. Then, Literacy Web, it is an online portal that includes a large number of new literacy resources for new literacies for teachers. Ganun ulit. Electronic library for teachers. I don't know if you have already visited these websites, no? As for me, I have seen some of them. Sabi ko nga kanina, na nagamit ko na, napunta na yung ibang mga websites na yan, yung iba hindi. This is the first time that I am seeing some of them. The point is, they are there in the internet, and you can access them, you can use them in your teaching later. Sabi nga natin, ay depende na lang yan sa creativity and resourcefulness of the teacher. Okay, let us synthesize. Pagsamasamahin natin ngayon at isummarize yung ating mga napag-usapan. 21st century education is the result of a long process of evolution. Nakarating tayo sa stage na ito, sa level na ito, sa kalagayang ito, after many years of slow and gradual changes from traditional education to 21st century education. So nagbago yung curriculum, nagbago yung classroom environment, lalong nagbago ang technology, nagbago din ang ating mga learners, tayo mismo as teachers, nagbabago din, including the demands of the job market. Nagbago ang mundo. Kaya nagbago din ang classroom, nagbago ang education, nagbago ang curriculum, and everything therein also changed. So dahil nagbabago, mayroong mga challenges, mayroong mga kailangan tayong gawin to overcome these challenges. Especially in the face of technological advancement. Pa-develop ng pa-develop, pa-advance ng pa-advance ang technology. And the challenge for us teachers is to cope with these changes. Paano natin hahabulin ang mga changes na yan? Paano natin hahabulin ang mga developments na yan in terms of skill? Mayroon namang bagong technology, hindi pa natin. Halimbawa, sa mga programs na lang, mga apps, may mga programs na ginagamit sa school na hindi natin alam pa until now. Halimbawa, simple example, Canvas, yung ginagamit ng mga teachers. Yung ibang teachers marunong ng Canvas. So, nagagamit nila. Yung iba hindi. Yung ibang pupils, ibang learners marunong ng Canvas. So, nagagamit nila. Yung iba hindi. Yung Canvas class is similar to Google Classroom. Kwan yan, website yan where teachers and students can interact. They can exchange materials. They can talk to each other. They can chat. Pwede mag-submit doon ng mga outputs ang mga learners, no? Yan sana ang balak kong gamitin, kaya lang problema natin is yung connectivity, no? Hindi kaya ng ating signal. Gusto ko nga sana mag-zoom, kaya lang hindi rin kaya ng signal. Lalo hindi kaya ng load. Sir, walang load, mabilis maubos ang aming load. Pag nidugray ay kaloira, sige, chat na lang tayo, chat. Upload ko na lang yung video sa YouTube. At least nakakaraos tayo. Nakakapag-klase pa rin, no? Ayan. Education should prepare students for life in this world. Di ba? Naalala yung sinabi ko kanina? Education is not just for grades. It's not just for scores in examinations. It's not just for ribbons. It's not just for medals during graduation. Ang pinaka-purpose talaga ng education class is to prepare our learners, to prepare our students for life, para sa buhay dito sa mundo, and to enable them to communicate, para sila ay makapag-communicate, makapag-function sa ating lipunan, so that they can contribute productively to the society. No? Maliban doon sa personal changes, personal development, personal advancement, kasi purpose din niya ng education para ma-improve yung personality, ma-develop yung kanyang potentials as a person. In addition to that, he should also be able to contribute socially, economically, politically sa society, whether it is local, national, or global. Ang pinakasama rin ito, the purpose of education is to develop the person as a whole so that he becomes a productive member of the society. So, hindi lang para siya, mataas ang score, may ribbon, may medal, may mataas na grade, palakpakan sa stage. Hindi lang ganun, no? The purpose of education is to develop the whole person, to make, to realize, to fulfill his potentials. May mga potentials tayo, class Mayroon tayong mga kakayahan. Hindi lang siya na-develop pa. So, the purpose of education is to tap or develop those potentials para yung tao, yung learner, maging pakinabang na bahagi ng lipunan. O para ma-develop niya yung kanyang sarili as a person. So, bilang tao, siya ay uunlad. No? Uunlad sa knowledge, uunlad sa pag-uugali, uunlad sa pakikipagkapwa-tao, uunlad sa pananalapi. But in addition to that, no, he will also be able to contribute to his community, to his society. Magkakagawa siya ng mga mabubuting bagay para sa kapwa, para sa lipunan, para sa Diyos. So you see, napufulfill yung kanyang buong pagkatao na di-develop. That's the purpose of education. And as teachers, it's part of our responsibility. Pumiyok ba ako doon? Para pumiyok ka. Kunti lang naman. Kalimutan niyo na lang. So, as teachers, it's part of our as teachers, it's part of our responsibility to teach well, so that these young children, our pupils, will develop as human beings. No? Yan. Nabayo. Okay, so yan yung pinakasama rin natin. That's the purpose of education. So sabi nga natin kanina, bilang mga teachers, ito po ay bahagi lahat ng ating responsibilities as teachers, no? Medyo mahirap siyang gawin ngayon dahil sabi nga, komplikado ang mundo, life is complex, and we need a lot of literacies. So, as teachers, kailangan natin talaga yung mga bagong literacies na yan, mga bagong knowledge, mga bagong skills, para tayo makaagapay sa takbo ng mundo. Kasi if we do not have these skills, if we do not have this knowledge, we will be left behind. May iwan tayo. Hindi tayo makakapagturo. Hindi natin magagawa yung ating duty, yung ating obligation na mag-contribute towards the development of the learner. Bahagi ng trabaho natin ay na mag-ambag, mag-contribute, tumulong sa paglago ng isang bata, sa pag-develop niya as a person. Kung wala tayo yung mga required skills, mga required new literacies, hindi natin yung maituturo sa kanya, hindi niya ma-develop yung kanyang sarili as a person. So, in that aspect, magkukulang tayo sa ating trabaho ngayon as teachers. So, yun. Yun yung kahalagahan ng 21st century literacies. Tayo muna ang dapat magkaroon ng mga skills na ito, tayo muna ang dapat magkaroon ng knowledge na ito, tayo muna ang dapat magkaroon ng mga literacies na ito. Later, ito naman ang mga ituturo natin sa ating mga learners. So you see? So yun. Okay, nandito na naman tayo sa end of the road. Medyo napahaba yung ating lecture video, pero ayos lang. I enjoyed doing this lecture video. So, I hope that I have shared something to you through this lecture video. I hope that you have learned something from it, and we'll end here for the meantime. No? Sa susunod ulit, hanggang sa susunod na pagkikita, ingat lahat. Let us all stay safe. God bless everyone.